The massive ship floated in the darkness of space like a metal mountain. Its hull stretched for 20 kilometers, covered in weapons that could destroy entire cities. This was the Void Sovereign, the flagship of King Veltar's royal fleet. Inside, the ship's command center, the alien king, sat on his throne made of rare crystals from 1,000 conquered worlds. Veltar was not like the creatures from Earth's old stories. He stood 3 meters tall, with 4 arms and skin that looked like polished stone. His people, the Corvathians, had ruled the galaxy for over 2,000 years. They had destroyed civilizations that dared to resist them. They had turned proud species into slaves. No one had ever defeated them in battle. "My lord," said General Kethra, bowing his massive head, "the scouts have returned from the outer systems." Veltar's 6 eyes focused on his most trusted warrior. Kethra had led the royal fleet to victory on 100 worlds. He had never lost a single battle. His ships had burned the capitals of rebellious planets and scattered their fleets like dust in the wind. "What news do they bring?" Veltar asked. His voice was deep and cold, like rocks grinding together. "The humans continue to spread, my lord. They have colonies on 12 worlds now. Their ships move faster each year. Their weapons grow stronger." Kethra paused, his face showing worry. "Some of my advisors believe they might become a threat." Veltar laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "A threat? These creatures learned to fly between stars only 200 years ago. We have been masters of space for 20 centuries. They are insects." But even as he spoke, Veltar felt a strange unease. The reports about humans were troubling. They learned too quickly. They adapted too fast. When the Corvathians first found them, humans could barely reach their own moon. Now they had ships that could cross dozens of star systems. It was unnatural. On the other side of the galaxy, Captain Jiwan stood on the bridge of Aegis Prime, Earth's largest defense station. She watched the stars through the great windows, thinking about her daughter back on Earth. Jiwan had been in space for 6 months, protecting the shipping lanes that brought supplies to the outer colonies. "Captain," called Lieutenant Hyunwoo from his station, "we're getting a strange signal from the deep space sensors. Something big is moving toward the solar system." Jiwan frowned. "How big?" "The computers can't get a clear reading, but the energy signatures are massive. Much bigger than our largest ships." Before Jiwan could respond, her communication screen lit up with an urgent message. Admiral Hyok's face appeared, looking grim and tired. "All station commanders, return to Earth immediately. We have a situation." Back, on the Void Sovereign, Veltar made his decision. He turned to Kethra and spoke in a voice that carried the weight of absolute authority. "Gather the royal fleet, all 500 ships. We will teach these humans their place in the universe." Kethra bowed deeper. "It will be done, my lord. But surely such force is not needed against primitive creatures." "Perhaps not," Veltar said, standing from his throne. "But I want to send a message to every species in the galaxy. Anyone who grows too quickly, anyone who forgets their place, will face the full might of the Corvathian Empire." Within hours, the greatest armada in galactic history began to move. 500 warships, each one larger than Earth's biggest city, turned toward the small blue planet on the galaxy's edge. Their engines burned like new stars, pushing the massive vessels faster than light itself. On Mars, young pilot Do-hyun was finishing his training exercises when the alarms began to sound. He had been flying starfighters for only 6 months, but he was already one of the best in his squadron. His hands moved quickly over the controls as he guided his small ship back to the landing bay. "All pilots report to Briefing Room 7, announced the base commander. "This is not a drill." Meanwhile, Dr. Nari worked late in her laboratory on Earth's moon. She was humanity's leading expert on quantum physics, though at 28, many people thought she was too young for such responsibility. She had been working on a new type of weapon, something that could theoretically bypass enemy shields completely, but the math was incredibly complex, and one small mistake could destroy everything within 100 kilometers. Her assistant, Jae-hyun, burst into the lab without knocking. "Dr. Nari, you need to see the news. Something is happening." On Earth, President Minho stood in the emergency command center beneath the capital city. Around him, screens showed data from across the solar system. The news was not good. Long-range sensors had detected something approaching from deep space. The objects were huge and moving in perfect formation. "How long until they reach us?" Minho asked. "3 days, sir," replied Defense Minister Suman. "Maybe less if they increase speed." "Have we tried to contact them? We've sent messages on all frequencies. No response." Minho felt the weight of humanity's future on his shoulders. Earth had fought wars before, but never against aliens. They didn't even know if their weapons would work against alien technology. The answer came 12 hours later. A transmission appeared on every screen, every radio, every communication device in the solar system. The image showed King Veltar in all his terrible glory, sitting on his crystal throne with the stars behind him. "Creatures of the third planet." Veltar's voice echoed across space. "I am Veltar, king of the Corvathian Empire, master of 1,000 worlds, conqueror of the spiral arms. You have expanded beyond your proper place in the universe. You have forgotten that you are nothing more than primitive beings who should be grateful for the peace we have allowed you." The transmission continued, showing brief images of the royal fleet. Humans across the solar system watched in horror as massive ships filled their screens. Each vessel was a masterpiece of destruction, armed with weapons that could crack planets in half. "You have 72 of your hours to surrender completely," Veltar continued. "Dismantle your fleets, abandon your colonies, return to your homeworld, and prepare for integration into our empire. If you refuse, every human in the galaxy will die. Your cities will burn. Your children will become slaves. Your very species will be erased from existence." The transmission ended, leaving silence across the solar system. In that silence, humanity faced its greatest test. They could surrender and hope for mercy, or they could fight against impossible odds. President Minho looked around the command center at the faces of Earth's leaders. He saw fear, but he also saw determination. Humans had never backed down from a fight, no matter how hopeless it seemed. "Send a message to all ships and stations," Minho said quietly. "Tell them we do not surrender. We do not bow to tyrants. If they want Earth, they will have to take it from us." Admiral Hayek received the message on his flagship, the battleship Sol. He looked at his officers and saw the same mixture of fear and resolve that filled his own heart. They had 47 ships against 500. Their largest vessel was smaller than the enemy's smallest escort, but they were human, and humans had never learned how to give up. In her laboratory, Dr. Nari stared at her equations with new urgency. Her quantum torpedo might be humanity's only hope, but it existed only on paper. She had 3 days to turn theory into reality. On Mars, Do-hyun and his fellow pilots prepared their fighters for a battle they probably would not survive. They were young, but they knew what they were fighting for. Earth, home, the future of their species. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, 500 alien warships continued their approach, confident in their overwhelming power. King Veltar sat on his throne and smiled. Soon, the troublesome humans would learn their place in his empire. He had no idea that he was about to face an enemy unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. The 72 hours passed like a nightmare. Across the solar system, humans prepared for the impossible. Every military base buzzed with activity. Families said goodbyes they feared would be their last. Children were evacuated to underground shelters while their parents took positions on the front lines. Admiral Hayek stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching as the human fleet assembled near Jupiter. 47 ships. That was everything humanity could gather. Every battleship, every cruiser, every destroyer they had built over the past 50 years. Against them came 500 alien vessels, each one a floating fortress of death. "Sir," said Commander Jinwoo, approaching with the latest intelligence reports. "We've analyzed the enemy ships as much as possible from long-range scans. The smallest destroyer is 2 kilometers long. Their dreadnoughts are over 10 kilometers. Our biggest ship could fit inside their cargo holds." Hyuk nodded grimly. He had seen the numbers. A single Corvathian beam weapon could cut through their strongest armor like paper. Their own plasma cannons would barely scratch the alien hulls. It was like sending children with toy swords against armored giants. "What about Dr. Nari's weapon?" Hyuk asked. Still theoretical, sir. She's working around the clock, but quantum physics doesn't follow schedules. On Earth's moon, Dr. Nari had not slept in 3 days. Her eyes were red with exhaustion, but her mind remained sharp. Around her, the laboratory looked like a war zone of scattered papers, broken equipment, and half-built prototypes. The quantum tunneling effect should work, she muttered to herself, checking her calculations for the 100th time. If we can create a stable quantum field, the torpedo should phase through their shields and armor completely. Her assistant Jae-hyun brought her another cup of coffee. Dr. Nari, you need to rest. You'll make mistakes if you're too tired. There's no time, Nari replied, not looking up from her work. Millions of people will die if I can't solve this. The torpedo has to work on the first try. We won't get a second chance. The weapon she was designing existed at the very edge of human understanding. It would use quantum mechanics to shift the torpedo into a different dimension, allowing it to pass through solid matter before returning to normal space inside the enemy ship. The theory was brilliant, but turning theory into reality was proving almost impossible. Meanwhile, on Mars, Do-hyun sat in his fighter cockpit, running through final system checks. His squadron had been chosen to carry the first batch of quantum torpedoes, assuming Dr. Nari could finish them in time. Each pilot knew they were volunteering for a suicide mission. The experimental weapons were so unstable, they might explode before reaching their targets. "Squadron leader to all pilots," came the voice of Captain Sung-min over the radio. "Remember, we're not trying to win this battle. We're trying to buy time for Earth's defenses. If we can take out even one of their big ships, we'll have done our job." Sung-min was a veteran of the Titan Rebellion, the last real war humanity had fought. He was 50 years old, ancient for a starfighter pilot, but his experience made him the best choice to lead the desperate mission. "What are our chances, Captain?" asked Lieutenant Min-soo, the youngest pilot in the squadron. "Honestly, almost zero," Sung-min replied. "But almost zero is still better than completely zero, and humans have a habit of beating impossible odds." As the deadline approached, the Corvathian fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the solar system. The sight that greeted human sensors was beyond their worst nightmares. 500 ships arranged in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming with alien metal that seemed to absorb light itself. At the center of the formation, the Void Sovereign dwarfed everything around it. War Prince Kethra stood in his command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the pitiful human fleet. His 4 arms moved gracefully as he issued orders. To his captains, "Analysis of enemy forces," he commanded. 47 primitive vessels, reported his tactical officer. Largest ship measures only 800 meters. Their weapons appear to be simple plasma-based energy beams. No quantum shielding detected. No dimensional weapons. Their armor is basic metal alloys. Kethra almost felt sorry for them. It would be like crushing insects under his boot. How long to reach their homeworld? At current speed, 6 hours, my lord. Slow our advance. Let them see their doom approaching. Fear will make them more likely to surrender at the last moment. But as the alien fleet moved deeper into the solar system, something unexpected happened. The human ships did not retreat. Instead, they formed a battle line between the invaders and Earth. 47 tiny vessels against 500 giants, refusing to yield a single meter of space. On the Bridge of the Soul, Admiral Hayek watched the alien formation approach. His tactical display showed the overwhelming enemy advantage in every category: firepower, armor, speed, numbers. Any sane commander would order a retreat. But retreat meant abandoning Earth to its fate. "All ships, this is Admiral Hayek," he broadcast to the human fleet. "Today we face an enemy that thinks we are weak. They believe we will break and run at the first sign of real battle. They are about to learn how wrong they are." The response came back from 47 captains, their voices creating a chorus of defiance. "Ready for battle, Admiral." Captain Jiwon stood on the bridge of her cruiser Busan, watching the enemy ships grow larger on her screens. She thought of her daughter, safe in an underground shelter on Earth. Whatever happened here, at least the children would have a chance to escape if the fleet fell. "Captain," reported her weapons officer, "we're in range of their forward scouts." "All ships, engage at will," Admiral Hayek commanded. The battle began with humanity firing the first shots. Plasma beams and missile salvos erupted from the human fleet, racing across the darkness toward the alien vessels. For a moment, hope flickered in human hearts as their weapons struck home. Then the hope died. The human weapons struck the Corvathian shields and simply vanished, absorbed without causing any damage at all. It was like throwing pebbles at a mountain. The alien response was swift and devastating. Energy beams of incredible power lanced out from the Corvathian ships, each one powerful enough to destroy a human vessel with a single hit. In the first minute of battle, 3 human destroyers simply ceased to exist, vaporized by weapons beyond their understanding. "Shields are useless!" shouted Commander Jinwoo as the Soul took a glancing hit that nearly tore the ship in half. "Their weapons cut right through everything!" Admiral Hyok gripped his command chair as another wave of alien fire swept through the human formation. 2 more ships exploded, their crews dying in seconds. At this rate, the entire fleet would be destroyed within an hour. But then something happened that changed everything. Dr. Nari's voice crackled over the communication system from her laboratory on the moon. "Admiral, the quantum torpedoes are ready. I'm transmitting the targeting data to Do-Hyun's squadron now." On Mars, Do-Hyun felt his heart race as the new weapon specifications appeared on his fighter's computer. The torpedo mounted under his ship looked ordinary, but according to Dr. Nari's notes, it could phase through matter itself. He had never seen anything like the equations scrolling across his screen. "All fighters, launch immediately," ordered Captain Sungmin. "Remember, these weapons are completely untested. They might work, they might explode in our faces. But it's the only chance we have." 24 human fighters launched from Mars, racing toward the battle at maximum speed. Behind them, the war for humanity's survival hung in the balance. Each pilot carried 1 quantum torpedo, and each torpedo represented months of Dr. Nari's desperate work. As they approached the battle zone, Do-Hyun could see the alien fleet in all its terrible glory. The ships were beautiful in their own way, graceful and deadly like enormous predators gliding through space. But they had come to destroy his world, and that made them his enemies. "Target the lead dreadnought," Sungmin commanded. "If we can take out one of their big ships, it might give the fleet hope." Do-Hyun locked onto the massive alien vessel, a ship so large it had its own gravity field. His finger hovered over the launch button as he whispered a prayer to whatever gods might be listening. The fate of Earth might depend on whether Dr. Nari's impossible weapon could actually work. Do-Hyun's finger pressed the launch button. The quantum torpedo detached from his fighter and began its journey toward the Corvathian dreadnought. For a moment, nothing seemed different. The weapon looked like any other missile flying through space, small and insignificant against the massive alien ship. Then something impossible happened. The torpedo began to flicker, its solid form becoming translucent like a ghost. Dr. Nari's quantum field generator was working, shifting the weapon into a different dimension where normal matter could not touch it. On the alien ship, defensive. Systems tracked the incoming missile and responded automatically. Energy beams powerful enough to melt asteroids struck the torpedo directly. But the beams passed right through it as if it wasn't there. The quantum field was working perfectly. War Prince Kethra watched the strange human weapon with growing confusion. "What is that device? Why do our weapons not destroy it?" "Unknown, my lord," his tactical officer replied. "The missile appears to be shifting between dimensional states. Our targeting systems cannot lock onto it properly." The torpedo struck the dreadnought's hull and passed through the armor like it was empty air. Deep inside the ship's core, the quantum field collapsed, and the weapon returned to normal space. The explosion that followed was beyond anything the Corvathians had ever experienced. The dreadnought, a ship that had conquered dozens of worlds, simply folded in on itself. Its quantum core destabilized, creating a chain reaction that tore the massive vessel apart from the inside. In less than 10 seconds, 2 kilometers of alien warship became expanding debris and radiation. The silence that followed was deafening. Both fleets stared at the empty space where the Corvathian dreadnought had been. No one could believe what they had just witnessed. "Impossible," whispered Kethra, his 4 hands gripping his command chair. "Nothing can penetrate our armor. Our shields are absolute," but the evidence floated before him in the form of twisted metal and cooling plasma. One of his most powerful ships had been destroyed by a single human weapon. His tactical displays showed that the human fighters carried 23 more of the strange torpedoes. Admiral Hyok was the first to break the silence. "All ships, concentrate fire on the enemy formation. Target their larger vessels." The human fleet, energized by the impossible victory, pressed their attack with new hope. Their conventional weapons were still useless against Corvathian shields, but now they had a way to fight back. Captain Sungmin led his fighters in a desperate charge against the alien line. "Remember," he broadcast to his pilots, "these torpedoes are our only advantage. Make every shot count." Lieutenant Minsu, his hands shaking with adrenaline, targeted a Corvathian cruiser and fired his quantum torpedo. Like Do-hyun's weapon, it phased through the alien ship's defenses and detonated inside the hull. The cruiser broke apart in a spectacular explosion that lit up the darkness of space. Dr. Nari, watching the battle from her laboratory on the moon, felt a mixture of triumph and terror. Her weapons were working, but she could see the tactical displays. The humans had destroyed 3 alien ships, but there were still nearly 500 enemies remaining. At this rate, they would run out of quantum torpedoes long before the battle was over. "I need more weapons," she said to Jae-hyun. "Can we manufacture additional torpedoes?" "Not with our current equipment," he replied sadly. "Each torpedo requires precise quantum calibration. It takes hours to build just one." Nari's mind raced as she studied the battle data. There had to be another way to use quantum technology against the aliens. She began running new calculations, looking for any weakness in the Corvathian ships that could be exploited. Meanwhile, Captain Ji-won found herself in the fight of her life. Her cruiser Busan had taken heavy damage from alien fire, but her crew refused to give up. When a Corvathian destroyer moved in for the killing blow, she ordered her ship to ram it head-on. "All power to engines," she commanded. "If we're going to die, let's take one of them with us." The Busan accelerated to maximum speed, its hull glowing red-hot from damaged systems. The alien destroyer tried to turn away, but it was too late. The human ship struck it like a missile, punching through the alien armor in a devastating impact that destroyed both vessels. Ji-won's sacrifice inspired other human captains to similar acts of desperate courage. Captain Sungmin, his fighter damaged and leaking air, guided his crippled ship into the engine section of a Corvathian battleship. The explosion took out both vessels, but it also cleared a path for other human fighters to attack. War Prince Kethra watched his fleet taking losses he had never imagined possible. These humans were fighting like cornered animals, using tactics no civilized species would consider. They rammed his ships with their own vessels. They sacrificed themselves to destroy single targets. It was madness, but it was also terrifyingly effective. "All ships, pull back to long range," he ordered. "Maintain distance and use our superior firepower." But as his ships tried to retreat, Dr. Nari made a breakthrough that would change the entire battle. She had been studying the quantum signatures from the destroyed alien vessels, and she noticed something interesting. The Corvathian ships used quantum entanglement to coordinate their systems. It made them incredibly efficient, but it also created a vulnerability. "Jae-hyun, look at this," she said, pointing to her computer screen. "Their ships are all connected through quantum links. If I can create a virus that travels through quantum entanglement, you could infect their entire fleet," Jae-hyun finished, his eyes wide with understanding. Nari's fingers flew over her keyboard as she began coding the most complex program of her life. A quantum virus that could spread from ship to ship through their own communication systems, shutting down critical functions and leaving them vulnerable to human weapons. The breakthrough came just as the human fleet was facing its darkest moment. Admiral Hyok had lost half his ships, and the survivors were low on ammunition and power. The alien fleet was pulling back to regroup, and there was no way the humans could pursue them. "Admiral," came Dr. Nari's voice over the communication system. "I'm uploading a new weapon to all ships. It's not a torpedo this time. It's a computer virus designed to attack their quantum networks." "Will it work?" Hyok asked, trying to keep hope out of his voice. "I don't know," Nari admitted. "But it's based on the same quantum principles as the torpedoes. If one of our ships can get close enough to transmit the virus to an alien vessel, it should spread through their entire fleet automatically." Commander Jinwoo, still alive despite the Soul taking massive damage, looked at his captain with grim determination. "Sir, we're closest to their formation. If someone needs to make the transmission..." Admiral Hyok nodded slowly. The Soul was already dying, its hull cracked and its engines failing. But maybe, just maybe, they could get close enough to one last enemy ship. "All remaining vessels, cover the Soul's approach," Hyuk commanded. "We're going to deliver Dr. Nari's virus personally." The battered human flagship began its final charge, racing toward the alien fleet with its last reserves of power. Around the surviving human ships, provided covering fire, drawing alien attention away from the Soul's desperate mission. Do-Yun, still alive in his fighter despite the odds, watched the Admiral's ship accelerate towards certain death. "All fighters, escort the Soul," he ordered his remaining squadron mates. "Make sure she gets through." The final phase of the battle was about to begin, and with it, humanity's last chance to save their world. As the Soul closed the distance, to the alien fleet, every human in the solar system held their breath. The fate of their species would be decided in the next few minutes. War Prince Kethra saw the damaged human ship approaching and smiled coldly. These creatures never knew when to surrender. He would destroy this last ship personally, and then finish off the remaining human forces at his leisure. He had no idea that the seemingly defeated vessel carried a weapon that would bring down his entire empire. The Soul raced toward the alien fleet like a wounded beast, making its final attack. Admiral Hyuk stood on his damaged bridge, watching as Corvathian weapons tore chunks from his ship's hull. Sparks flew from broken consoles, and the air tasted of smoke and burning metal. "How close do we need to get?" he asked, through gritted teeth. 500 meters. Dr. Nari's voice crackled through the damaged communication system. "The virus needs direct contact with their quantum field to begin transmission. 500 meters. To an alien ship 2 kilometers long, that meant flying. Directly into their defensive fire. It was suicide, but it was also humanity's last hope. "Sir, their main battleship is targeting us," reported Commander Jinwoo, blood running down his face from a head wound. "Impact in 30 seconds. Evasive maneuvers," Hyuk ordered, though he knew their damaged engines could barely respond. The Soul twisted desperately through space as massive energy beams carved the vacuum around it. One beam clipped the ship's rear section, vaporizing the entire engine bay, but momentum carried them forward, ever closer to the enemy formation. 200 meters, Jinwoo called out. 150. Transmit the virus now, Hyuk shouted. The Soul's communication array, one of the few systems still working, sent Dr. Nari's quantum virus directly into the nearest Corvathian ship. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the alien vessel's lights began to flicker. On the Corvathian cruiser Dominion's Edge, Captain Zektar watched his control panels with growing alarm. "What is happening to our systems?" "Unknown, sir," his technical officer replied. "Some kind of foreign program has entered our quantum network. It's spreading to other systems. Purge it immediately." But it was too late. The virus had been designed specifically to exploit the quantum entanglement that connected all Corvathian ships. From the Dominion's Edge, it jumped instantly to 3 other vessels. From those ships, it spread to 9 more. Within minutes, it had infected the entire alien fleet. War Prince Kethra felt his massive dreadnought shudder as critical systems began to fail. "Report!" he roared. "My lord, all ships are reporting system failures," his communications officer said, panic creeping into his voice. "Weapons offline, shields fluctuating, engines operating at reduced power. Whatever the humans transmitted, it's spreading through our entire quantum network." On the dying Soul, Admiral Hyuk allowed himself a small smile as he watched the alien fleet's formation begin to break apart. Ships that had moved in perfect coordination now drifted out of position as their computer systems crashed. "Dr. Nari," he said into his communicator, "your virus is working. The enemy fleet is in chaos." But their victory came at a terrible cost. The Soul's hull could no longer contain atmosphere, and Hyuk could feel the ship breaking apart around him. "All hands, abandon ship," he ordered. "You've done enough. More than enough." As escape pods launched from the dying flagship, the remaining human fleet pressed their advantage. With Corvathian shields fluctuating and weapons offline, even conventional, human weapons could now penetrate their armor. Captain Tae-hyun, commanding the experimental ship Terra's Wrath, led the counterattack. His vessel was humanity's newest design, built using technology reverse-engineered from captured Corvathian equipment. It was smaller than the alien ships, but faster and more maneuverable. All ships target the disabled vessels, Tae-hyun ordered. Hit them while their defenses are down. The battle's tide had completely reversed. Ships that had seemed invincible minutes before now exploded under human fire. The quantum virus continued to spread, disabling more and more of the alien fleet with each passing moment. Dr. Nari, exhausted but triumphant in her lunar laboratory, watched the tactical displays with amazement. Her virus was working even better than she had hoped. Jae-hyun, look at this data. The virus isn't just disabling their systems, it's learning their technology and sending the information back to us. What does that mean? Jae-hyun asked. It means we're getting blueprints for their entire fleet. Weapons, engines, shields, everything. We can build ships just as advanced as theirs, maybe even better. Meanwhile, Do-hyun found himself in an impossible situation. His fighter squadron had been reduced to just 3 ships, but they were now hunting Corvathian vessels that could barely fight back. It felt strange to be pursuing enemies who had seemed invincible just hours before. Target that cruiser, he told his wingman. Its shields are down and weapons are offline. The quantum torpedoes, so precious during the first phase of the battle, were no longer needed. Regular missiles could now penetrate the alien hulls. But Do-hyun saved his special weapons for the largest targets, the massive dreadnoughts that were trying to retreat from the battle. War Prince Kethra, his own ship crippled by the virus, watched his magnificent fleet being torn apart by the very creatures he had come to conquer. Nearly 100 ships had been destroyed, and more were falling every minute. My lord, his tactical officer reported, the humans have somehow gained access to our technology. Their ships are adapting to use our own weapons against us. How is that possible? The virus, my lord. It appears to be more than just a weapon. It's stealing our technical specifications and transmitting them to the human fleet. Kethra felt something he had never experienced before in his long military career. Fear. These humans were not just defeating his fleet, they were learning from it, growing stronger with each victory. If this continued, they would soon possess technology equal to or better than the Corvathian Empire. Signal all remaining ships, he ordered. Begin immediate retreat to the outer system. We must regroup and warn the Empire. But even retreat was proving difficult. The quantum virus had damaged many ships faster than light engines. They were trapped in the solar system, easy targets for the increasingly confident human forces. Captain Minji, a communications specialist on the surviving human fleet, intercepted desperate Corvathian transmissions. Admiral Hayok, they're trying to call for reinforcements, but our virus has corrupted their long-range communications. They can't contact their home worlds. From his escape pod, Admiral Hayok coordinated the final phase of the battle via portable communicator. Captain Tae-hyun, take the Terra's Wrath and pursue their retreating forces. Don't let any of them escape to warn their empire. Tae-hyun's ship, now enhanced with stolen Corvathian technology, easily outran the crippled alien vessels. The Terra's Wrath had become a hybrid, combining human innovation with alien engineering to create something entirely new. Sir, reported his navigation officer, we're detecting human ships throughout the outer system. It looks like other defense forces have arrived. Indeed, ships from Mars, Europa, and the asteroid colonies were converging on the battle zone. What had started as a desperate defense by 47 vessels had become a fleet of over 200 human ships, all equipped with Dr. Nari's quantum technology and supported by captured alien equipment. The Corvathian Empire had sent 500 ships to conquer Earth. After 6 hours of battle, fewer than 50 remained operational, and most of those were too damaged to fight effectively. War Prince Kethra, his mighty dreadnought limping away from the battle on auxiliary power, sent a desperate message to any Corvathian ship that could still receive it. This is War Prince Kethra to all Imperial forces. Retreat immediately. The humans have weapons and capabilities beyond our understanding. They have defeated the Royal Fleet. I repeat, the Royal Fleet has been defeated. But Dr. Nari's virus had one final surprise. As it spread through the quantum network, it had also penetrated the Corvathian command codes and navigation systems. Now it began broadcasting the locations of every Corvathian military base, supply depot, and colonial world directly to the human fleet. Tae-hyun, came Dr. Nari's voice over the communication system. "I'm sending you star charts showing the location of their empire. Every military installation, every supply line, every weak point in their defenses." Tae-hyun studied the incoming data with amazement. It was like having a complete map of the enemy's territory, with all their secrets exposed. "Dr. Nari, this information is incredible. We could strike at the heart of their empire." "That's exactly what I was thinking," she replied. "But first we need to make sure none of their ships escape to warn them." The hunt began in earnest. Human ships, now superior to their alien counterparts, spread throughout the solar system to track down every remaining Corvathian vessel. It was no longer a battle. It was an extermination. Do-hyun, promoted to squadron leader after Captain Sungmin's sacrifice, led the final sweep of the outer planets. His fighters, equipped with both quantum torpedoes and captured alien weapons, made short work of any enemy ships they encountered. By the end of the day, the solar system belonged entirely to humanity. The mighty royal fleet that had come to conquer Earth had been completely destroyed. Not a single Corvathian ship escaped to carry word of their defeat back to the Empire. But for Dr. Nari and the human commanders, this was only the beginning. They now possessed the technology and star charts needed to take the fight directly to their enemies. The species that had been marked for conquest was about to become the conqueror. 3 months after the Battle of Earth, the galaxy would never be the same. Human ships now moved through space using captured Corvathian technology, but improved by human engineering. What had once taken the aliens decades to perfect, humans had mastered and enhanced in weeks. Captain Do-hyun, now a squadron leader, stood on the bridge of his new ship, the Vengeance. It was built from the remains of a Corvathian cruiser, but every system had been redesigned by human engineers. The ship was faster, more maneuverable, and more deadly than anything the aliens had ever created. "Approaching the Kepler system," reported his navigation officer. 3 Corvathian military bases detected on long-range sensors." "Any sign of defensive fleets?" Do-hyun asked. "Negative, sir. Intelligence reports suggest they've recalled most ships to defend their core worlds." Do-hyun smiled grimly. The Corvathian Empire was in chaos. Word of the royal fleet's complete destruction had somehow reached their home worlds despite their attempts at secrecy. Now they were pulling forces from across the galaxy to protect their most important planets, leaving their outer territories defenseless. "Launch the attack," he ordered. The Vengeance led a fleet of 12 human ships into the Kepler system. Each vessel was a hybrid of human and alien technology, crewed by humans who had learned to use Corvathian weapons better than the Corvathians themselves. The attack on the military bases was swift and devastating. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Nari worked in a laboratory that had grown from a small moon base to a massive research complex. Hundreds of scientists from across the solar system studied captured alien technology, reverse engineering everything from weapons to faster-than-light engines. "The quantum cascade effect is stable," she reported to President Minho during their daily briefing. "We can now shut down entire enemy fleets remotely, just like we did at Earth." "How many ships can you affect at once?" Minho asked. "Theoretically unlimited. The quantum virus spreads through their network automatically. Every ship that connects to an infected vessel becomes infected itself." Minho studied the star charts on his desk, each one marking human victories across Corvathian space. In 3 months, humanity had gone from a single solar system to controlling dozens of star systems. Former Corvathian colonies were declaring independence and asking for human protection. "What about the alien populations on those worlds?" he asked. "Most species are welcoming us as liberators," replied Admiral Hayok, who had survived the Battle of Earth and now commanded humanity's expanded fleet. "The Corvathians ruled through fear and oppression. Many worlds have been waiting centuries for someone strong enough to challenge the Empire." This was perhaps the most unexpected development. As human forces advanced through Corvathian space, they discovered that the Empire controlled hundreds of different species. Most had been conquered long ago and forced to serve as slaves or tribute providers. When they learned that the mighty royal fleet had been destroyed by a single species, in one battle, rebellions erupted across the galaxy. Captain Tae-hyun, now commanding a task force of 30 ships, received a priority transmission while patrolling the former Corvathian border. "Sir, We're getting a message from the Centauri homeworld. They're asking for immediate assistance against Corvathian garrison forces. The Centauri were a peaceful species of aquatic beings who had been under Corvathian rule for over 500 years. Their world was strategically important, sitting at the junction of several major shipping routes. Set course for the Centauri system, Taehyun ordered. Maximum speed. When his fleet arrived, they found the local Corvathian garrison of 20 ships trying to suppress a planet-wide uprising. The alien forces were brutally bombing civilian targets, trying to terrorize the population back into submission. All ships, engage the enemy fleet, Taehyun commanded. Protect the civilian areas. The battle was one-sided. The human ships, equipped with quantum weapons and virus-infected targeting systems, tore through the Corvathian garrison in minutes. The few alien survivors fled in terror, spreading word that humans could appear anywhere and defeat any force sent against them. Back on Earth, Commander Suman coordinated intelligence reports from across the expanding human territory. As defense minister, she had access to all the information flowing in from the front lines. The psychological impact is devastating, she reported to the Leadership Council. Corvathian commanders are abandoning their positions rather than face human forces. Some alien species are surrendering the moment they see our ships. What about King Veltar? Asked President Minho. Still on his throne world, but his empire is collapsing around him. We estimate he's lost control of over 60% of his territory. More worlds declare independence every day. The truth was even worse for the Corvathian Empire than the humans realized. On the royal capital of Corvath Prime, King Veltar sat in his crystal throne room, surrounded by the few advisors who hadn't fled or been executed for bringing bad news. How many ships do we have left? He asked his military coordinator. Perhaps 300, my lord, scattered across 50 systems. But many commanders refuse to engage human forces directly. They've heard what happened to War Prince Kethra's fleet! Veltar's 6 eyes burned with rage and humiliation. The species he had dismissed as primitive insects had destroyed his royal fleet and now hunted his forces across the galaxy. Worse, they were inspiring rebellions everywhere they went. What of Kethra himself? Missing, my lord. His last transmission came from the human solar system before the communication blackout. We must assume he is dead. But War Prince Kethra was not dead. He was trapped on a damaged ship in the outer reaches of the solar system, watching human vessels patrol the space that had once belonged to his fleet. His mighty dreadnought was barely functional, its systems corrupted by the quantum virus and its crew reduced to a handful of survivors. My lord, his tactical officer reported, human ships are conducting another sweep of this sector. They will find us soon. Kethra looked at the tactical display showing dozens of human vessels moving through space with purpose and confidence. They had learned to use Corvathian technology better than the Corvathians themselves. It was like watching children grow into giants overnight. Sir, incoming transmission from one of the human ships. The main screen activated, showing the face of a young human officer. Kethra recognized him as one of the fighter pilots who had attacked his fleet months ago. This is Captain Do-Yoon of the human fleet, the officer said. War Prince Kethra, you are surrounded. Surrender your ship and crew, and you will be treated according to the laws of war. Kethra almost laughed. These humans, who he had come to destroy, were now offering him mercy. It was the final humiliation. What guarantee do I have of fair treatment? He asked. You have my word as an officer, Do-Hyun replied. Your crew will be repatriated to Corvathian space. You will be held as a prisoner of war until the conflict ends. The conflict. Kethra realized that the human didn't even consider this a war anymore. It was just a conflict, something to be resolved. The mighty Corvathian Empire had been reduced to a minor problem. I surrender, he said quietly. As Corvathian ships across the galaxy received word that War Prince Kethra himself had surrendered to human forces, the last vestiges of imperial morale collapsed. If their greatest military commander could not stand against the humans, what hope did ordinary captains have? On Earth, Lieutenant Ji-hoon was promoted to captain and given command of a mixed fleet of human and alien ships. Many species had volunteered to serve alongside human forces, eager to strike back at their former oppressors. Sir, reported his alien liaison officer, a Zenthari who had escaped Corvathian slavery, we're receiving surrender offers from 12 more Corvathian outposts. They're offering to hand over their weapons and technology in exchange for safe passage home. Ji-hoon studied the tactical display. What had started as a desperate defense of Earth had become a complete reversal of galactic power. Humanity now controlled more territory than they could effectively manage, and new species were joining their alliance every day. Accept their surrender, he ordered, but make sure they're thoroughly scanned for quantum viruses before we let them leave. We can't risk them infecting our systems. The irony was not lost on him. The humans were now worried about alien computer viruses, just as the Corvathians had failed to protect themselves from human quantum weapons. Dr. Nari, now director of the Galactic Technology Division, received daily reports of new discoveries made from captured alien equipment. We're learning about technologies that are thousands of years more advanced than anything we had, she told her research team. But somehow, we're improving on their designs. How is that possible? Asked Jae-hyun, still her trusted assistant. I think it's because they became too comfortable with their superiority, Nari replied. They stopped innovating centuries ago. When we combined their technology with human creativity, we created something entirely new. As the human fleet prepared for its final advance on the Corvathian core worlds, King Veltar made a decision that would have been unthinkable just months before. He opened a communication channel to Earth. The transmission from King Veltar reached Earth on a Tuesday morning, exactly 1 year after he had sent his ultimatum to humanity. President Minho stood in the same command center where he had first seen the alien king's threat, but everything had changed. The walls now displayed star maps showing human territory that stretched across half the galaxy. Veltar's image appeared on the main screen, but he looked nothing like the confident emperor who had demanded Earth's surrender. His crystalline throne was cracked, his royal robes were torn, and his 6 eyes showed defeat and desperation. Humans of Earth, he began, his voice lacking its former authority. I am Veltar, former king of the Corvathian Empire. I come before you to discuss terms of surrender. A year ago, those words would have seemed impossible. Now they felt inevitable. Minho looked around the command center at his advisors, Admiral Hyok, Dr. Nari, Defense Minister Suman, and others who had guided humanity through its greatest trial. What terms are you proposing? Minho asked. Complete withdrawal of all Corvathian forces from disputed territories, Veltar replied. Recognition of human authority over all liberated worlds. Reparations to species harmed by our empire. And he paused, the words clearly difficult to speak. The abdication of the royal throne. Dr. Nari leaned forward. What about your military technology? Your weapons research? Your ship designs? All will be shared with your scientists, Veltar said. We have nothing left to hide. Your forces have captured most of our advanced equipment anyway. It was true. Captain Do-hyun's fleet had just returned from a raid on the Corvathian research station at Proxima 7, bringing back the plans for weapons that could destroy entire star systems. But more importantly, they had rescued thousands of alien prisoners. Scientists and engineers from dozens of species who had been forced to work for the Empire. There is one more thing, Veltar continued. A warning. There are other empires in the galaxy, some even larger than ours was. They have been watching your expansion with growing concern. They may unite against you as they never united against us. Admiral Hyok stepped forward. Let them come. We've proven that size and age don't guarantee victory. But President Minho was more thoughtful. What do you suggest, Veltar? Build alliances now while you can. Many species will follow you because you liberated them from us, but others fear that you will become new oppressors. Show them that humans can be different. 2 weeks later, the historic ceremony took place on the neutral world of Haven, a planet that had been liberated by human forces 6 months earlier. Representatives from over 300 species gathered to witness the formal end of the Corvathian Empire and the beginning of something entirely new. Captain Taehyun's ship, the Terra's Wrath, led an honor guard of vessels from 50 different worlds. The sight was magnificent. Sleek human ships flying alongside exotic alien designs, all united under the banner of the new Galactic Alliance. War Prince Kethra, released from human custody as a gesture of goodwill, stood beside his former king as they formally surrendered their empire. The ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy, showing every species that the age of Corvathian domination was finally over. Citizens of the galaxy, President Minho addressed the assembled crowd. Today, we do not celebrate conquest but liberation. We do not claim the right to rule through force, but the responsibility to protect through cooperation. Dr. Nari, now recognized as the galaxy's leading expert on quantum technology, had established research stations on a dozen worlds. Scientists from hundreds of species worked together, sharing knowledge that had been hoarded by the Corvathians for centuries. The rate of technological advancement was staggering. "We're making discoveries every day," she reported to the Alliance Council. "Faster than light communication, dimensional storage, even early experiments in time manipulation. But the most important discovery is that cooperation produces better results than domination." Captain Do-hyun, now Admiral Do-hyun at the age of 25, commanded the Alliance's rapid response fleet. His ships could appear anywhere in the galaxy within hours, carrying aid to worlds under threat or support to new members joining the Alliance. "Sir," reported his communications officer, Lieutenant Yunji, "we're receiving a distress call from the Vegan system. An unknown fleet has entered their space and is demanding tribute." "Set course immediately," Do-hyun ordered, "and send word to the Council." It looks like Veltar was right about other empires testing our resolve. The unknown fleet turned out to belong to the hegemony of Kitos, another ancient empire that had watched the Corvathian collapse with growing alarm. Their ships were different from Corvathian designs, more organic-looking as if they had been grown rather than built. Admiral Sungho, who had taken command of the Vegan defense forces, was already engaging the enemy when Do-hyun's fleet arrived. The battle was brief, but decisive. Human quantum weapons and virus technology proved just as effective against Kitosian ships as they had against Corvathian vessels. "This is Admiral Do-hyun of the Galactic Alliance," he broadcast to the retreating enemy fleet. "Your aggression against Alliance member worlds will not be tolerated. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The Kitosian commander, a being that looked like a cross between a squid and a tree, appeared on the communications screen. "You humans spread across the galaxy like a plague. We will not allow you to dominate as the Corvathians did." "We don't want to dominate anyone," Do-hyun replied, "but we will protect our allies. Choose your next actions carefully." The Kitosian fleet withdrew, but Do-hyun knew this was just the beginning. As Dr. Nari had predicted in her research, human expansion was causing fear and resentment among established powers. The galaxy was heading toward a much larger conflict. Back on Earth, now the capital of the Galactic Alliance, President Minho met with leaders from across known space. The old United Nations building had been expanded to accommodate beings of every size and shape imaginable. Translators worked around the clock to facilitate communication between species that had never interacted before. "The Kitosian hegemony has formally demanded that we halt our expansion," reported Ambassador Minji, humanity's chief diplomat. "They claim we're disrupting the natural order of the galaxy." "The natural order," scoffed Admiral Hyok. "You mean their right to bully smaller species without interference?" Commander Jihoon, now Director of Alliance Intelligence, presented his latest analysis. "We've identified at least 6 major powers that consider us a threat. The Kitosians, the Stellar Collective, the Machine Consciousness, the Psionic Federation, the Hive Clusters, and something called the Ancient Dominion. How do we compare in terms of military strength?" Minho asked. "Individually, we could defeat any of them," Jihoon replied. "But if they unite against us, we'd be heavily outnumbered. However, we have advantages they lack: superior technology, a network of allied species, and our ability to adapt quickly to new threats." Dr. Nari, participating via hologram from her research station, added her perspective. "The quantum virus technology has evolved beyond our original design. It can now adapt to almost any computer system we encounter. As long as our enemies rely on network technology, we maintain a significant advantage." "But we shouldn't rely on that alone," cautioned Admiral Hyok. "We need to continue building alliances and strengthening our conventional forces." 6 months later, the galaxy watched in amazement as the impossible happened again. A coalition of 6 ancient empires, commanding over 10,000 ships, launched a coordinated attack on Alliance territory. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. The battle lasted 3 days and covered dozens of star systems. When it was over, the coalition forces had been completely destroyed, while Alliance losses were minimal. The combination of human innovation, alien cooperation, and quantum technology had proven unstoppable once again. Captain Minsu, now commanding his own task force, led the final assault on the Catosian home fleet. All ships maintain formation. Remember, we're here to end their aggression, not destroy their civilization. The Catosian hegemony surrendered unconditionally, followed quickly by the other coalition members. But rather than demanding tribute or territory, the Alliance offered them membership and protection. Within a year, former enemies had become new allies. Admiral Do-hyun stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking out at the largest fleet in galactic history. Over 50,000 ships from more than 1,000 species flew in perfect formation, all united under the Alliance banner. The dream of a peaceful galaxy was finally becoming reality. "Sir," reported Captain Yunji, "we are receiving reports of first contact with beings from another galaxy. They're requesting permission to establish diplomatic relations." Do-hyun smiled. The universe was vast, and humanity's journey was just beginning. But they had learned that no challenge was too great when different species worked together with courage, innovation, and determination. On Earth, President Minho prepared for his retirement, knowing that he was leaving the galaxy in good hands. The species that had once faced extinction now led the greatest alliance in galactic history. And at the heart of it all was a simple truth that humans had always known. Sometimes the impossible just takes a little longer to achieve. The Corvathian. Royal fleet had been wiped from existence, but far,